Tom Ackerman is the sports director at KMOX in St. Louis, overseeing a department that serves as the flagship station for the St. Louis Cardinals. And he's also the lead sports anchor on KMOX's Total Information A.M. In this podcast, Tom describes how he was introduced to the world of broadcasting, developed an interest in radio and television, and some of his favorite moments that he's seen. Here's Tom Ackerman on Persons of Interest.
Tom, how are things going for you today?
Well, I mean, they're going well, except now I'm a person of interest. I don't know. I guess you finally caught up with me. I'm doing good. It's great to talk to you. We go way back, and this is an interesting time in our lives, that's for sure. So it's good to see familiar faces and hear familiar voices and talk to them. So, yeah, things are good. I mean, as best as can be expected right now under the circumstances.
Absolutely. I've gotten that same sort of feedback for some other folks that, we're making do with what we can. But today, the whole purpose of my podcast is to sort of dive into sort of the interesting backgrounds and career. And your path is one that is very unique because not only are you the sports director here in St. Louis at KMOX, but you do a host of other things in terms of sports media, sports broadcasting. But take me back. I know you're an Indiana grad. Is that where it all started for you, where you dove into journalism and sports media? How did you find your way into the path that you have now?
Yeah, it actually started even before that. In high school, I played football, basketball in the winter, and in the spring played golf. And a little baseball before that, but really started to concentrate on golf. But I really liked playing football. The problem was, Derek, I was small and slow and not very big. So that's not going to well. So as a quarterback, as a little kid, I wanted to be a quarterback, but I still, was a small kid for my size. I grew later. Actually, I'm 6'2", 200, 205 right now. I wish I was this size in high school. But anyway, I decided to make the transition to the press box. I got an opportunity after leaving football to be the voice of the JV football team. The freshman team played. So how it worked at MICDS is where I went to high school. All the games were on Saturdays. So the freshman team played at 9 a.m. The JV team played at 11 a.m. or 11:30, something like that. It might have been 9:30, 11:30. And then the 2 o'clock game was the varsity game. Okay. So I got a chance to do what the varsity PA announcer did. I was the PA for the JV team. So these were, freshmen, sophomores, mostly sophomores. The B team is what they called it.
Sure.
So I was the B football broadcaster, and I had fun with it. I asked permission to do it from the athletic director, and the varsity PA announcer was a guy with a big, deep voice, and his name was Ed Corsi. And one day after I did that, my sophomore year in high school, Ed Corsi called me in and he said, "Tom, I am going to be moving to Northern Illinois University. I'm leaving the school. And we would like you to be the varsity public address announcer for Country Day football." Country Day football is a big tradition. Ron Holtman won 6 state titles at the school. He was a legend. And I had a chance to be the PA announcer. So I took that job and I was up in the booth junior and senior year in high school. Among my duties was to be the PA announcer. And to my right, my scoreboard operator was my English teacher. And I went down on the field and I took the rosters down to the coaches and some of the assistant coaches and asked them about their players. And I learned pronunciations of names. And at halftime, I would call into the KMOX sports line, which is 314 321-1111, and there would be a recorded message every hour. They would change it with the updated scores. Every half hour, they would update the scores in college football. And I'd write them down on a sheet of paper. And then at halftime, I would make sure I had the most updated ones, and I would read the college football scores on the PA for the crowd. And those are my first sportscasts. And the crowd really liked them. So I came back every week, every game I would do, Notre Dame leads USC 24-20. And the crowd would be like, ooh, Missouri leads Oklahoma State, and I'd do these scores. And I really enjoyed it. And I knew from a little kid that I wanted to be a sportscaster, but now I had some feedback. I had an audience. I had a successful football program in high school that I was doing games for, and I actually was doing this thing, and I enjoyed it. I looked forward to it, and that was kind of the start for me. I went to Indiana University, as you mentioned, and started doing college radio there, and that really took off. That's a whole other story in itself, actually.
Did you, when you started doing high school games, did you get the opportunity to do varsity at that point, or did you stick with the B team?
No, I moved into varsity. So when Mr. Corsi left to go to Northern Illinois, I became the varsity guy, junior, senior. So I was doing those big games against Priory and Burroughs and Lutheran North and big rivalries, Saturday afternoons. All my friends are either on the team or they're out in the crowd, the parents. I mean, these were all people that I knew. So you had that feeling, which you still get, of excitement of nailing the job and doing a really good job. I knew that the parents are out there waiting for their kid's name to be called. So as often as I could, I did that. And I learned how to say different, phrases and follow a game. I knew the game of football, but it was really fun to do the down and distance, to introduce the national anthem at the start, which my dad taught me the proper way to do that, to do the weather, what the wind direction was. I mean, I really was part of the game day atmosphere, and I still to this day listen to how PA announcers do it during football games. I've always had a fascination with it. That was really a lot of fun for me. So I was doing the VAR in the booth. Again, my English teacher was Mr. Grimley, Charlie Grimley, sitting to my right. And I remember one thing distinctly in my head. I said, kickoff return to the 23. Country Day has the ball, 1st and 10 on their 23. And he's over there like, I'm like, what? And he goes, is Country Day plural? And I said, no. And he goes, why do you say there? It's 23. So I always remember that it's St. Louis has the ball on its 20, first down. Not St. Louis has the ball on there. St. Louis is a singular, right?
Right.
So that always is still to this day, it's in my head.
I was going to say, some things stick with you, right?
Yeah, some things stick with you. It's in there, you wouldn't say Northern Iowa takes the ball out on their own baseline. You say on its baseline.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that was something in high school that you had to get in your head. And I appreciate Mr. Grimley how lucky was I? I had my English teacher in the booth with me. I didn't have to worry about proper grammar. The guy was correcting me the whole time.
I was going to say, some people have a stat spotter for doing broadcast games. You got your English teacher right to the side of you that's spotting for you.
You really think about it, what a great, lucky thing that was. And yeah, there was occasionally I'd have a spotter, but I really did it on my own. I was also the person, I had the phone there that I would call and get the scores, but there were no cell phones. So that was the phone. If somebody got injured, normally in all games, there's an ambulance on, but if there wasn't, if we needed to make a phone call, I was the one who made, called 911 to get, somebody to the facility. So, there was a lot. I had a lot of responsibility as a 16, 17-year-old, and I really enjoyed that. And it was my first, again, press box experience, and it really helped me through the years. In college at Indiana University, I did a lot of that. I did football, basketball, baseball. The quick story there is that when I went to college, freshman year, there was a student radio station called WIUS, and it was an FM cable station, which meant that you needed a cable to plug into your stereo to hear it. It was not FM or AM.
Okay.
Anyway, but it was very popular, and I called to try to get an on-air shift, and they said, we don't offer it to freshmen because we are full, but, leave us your name and your info, and we'll reach out to you next year. Well, the second semester was about to begin, and I did get a phone call, and they said, we have some good news. We actually have a shift open that we'd like to offer to you. I'm like, wow, that's amazing. I will take it. And they said, great. So it's Monday, 3 to 6 a.m. I'm like, perfect. God, that's mine. And I called my mom, and she's like, are you crazy? You can't do that at 3 to 6 a.m. I'm like, Mom, it'll be great. I'm not going to have any classes on Monday. I'm going to change my schedule. I will do this. I want to do this. I really want to do this. And so I don't think anybody listened to it. Maybe my roommate claimed that he did. But the point was that I was on the air, that right. I was getting reps. And all I was doing was reading the time and the weather and the next song. It was an alternative rock station. But I was in charge. I was the only one in the building. I was operating the station. And looking back, what a huge move that was for me, because I learned radio on my own. And I did, after that, take, very important media school classes, telecommunications, business. I wanted to learn the whole aspect, every aspect of the business. But having that experience, sophomore year, 6 to 9 a.m., did a show with a friend of mine, Damon Bruce, who's now an afternoon drive host in San Francisco. We added a third person who read the news. Started to do some sports talk, got my first shot at doing play-by-play for Indiana basketball sophomore year. By the time I was a senior, I was doing the Michigan game. I had 3 to 6 p.m. on Friday was the shift, with one of the best shifts at the station. We were doing, and my buddy Damon and I would do the show and then, go down and grab a beer, senior year. It was just... looking back on that experience, college radio, I wouldn't do it any differently. I appreciated it, even though at the time I wondered if anybody was listening. The point was that I was learning, that I was kind of thrown into the fire. The experiences that they have now at the media school at Indiana is mind-blowing. They all have so many opportunities to do TV and radio. There's so much that you can do. But then I kind of had to find it on my own, and I did, and I'm very grateful.
I was going to ask, when you were at Indiana, did you have the opportunity to dabble not only in radio, but also get into the TV? Because when you start doing PA for high school football, it's a little bit different than being just solely on the radio, which is different than being on television. Your experience, you've got experience in all those now. Did you get all that in college?
I did not. And what they do now is you do get a chance. When I was in college, there were very few TV opportunities. There was a TV station. WTIU was the student-run television station, public PBS station. There were not a lot of opportunities there. I do recall doing some sports here and there, but nothing play-by-play was available, not like it is today with the affiliation with Big Ten Network. It's unbelievable what they do. I'm on the board of the media school there, and every time I go, I'm like, you kids have it so good. And these doors that are open to you right now, amazing. Right. But what I did have was I did radio play-by-play for Indiana basketball, football, and baseball through WIUS. And I really enjoyed that. But I also had the experience of covering a major program. Indiana basketball is a nationally recognized brand. Bob Knight was the head coach, and every press conference was a show. It was every game, half the games are nationally televised at that point. The ESPN was in town all the time. You had to be on your toes. You're going to ask the coach a question in front of all those people. You better be ready and better be able to back it up. And I was covering the team. I was covering Indiana basketball as a college student. That was a major experience for me because my first assignment at KMOX was covering the St. Louis Cardinals, my, boyhood team, but also a major brand. the manager of the Cardinals, Tony La Russa, who learned that I had covered Coach Knight and got to know Coach Knight personally. And the fact that he knew that, and that helped me. The fact that I had experience covering a major personality like Bob Knight absolutely helped me with La Russa and others from that point forward. So the college experience, my 4 years there, I mean, I grew up, I learned, I would not change a thing. It was awesome. It really was.
Radio, TV, which one do you enjoy doing more?
Oh yeah. So you asked about TV. So, I mean, how did I get into TV? And which one do I enjoy doing more is a tough question, because which you ask all the tough questions, which is good. Because radio is where it started for me, and it is my full-time job, but TV is very, very much part of my life now. And I love doing college basketball on TV. How did I start that? My first assignment on TV, really, I mean, I would come in and do Sports Plus with Mike Bush and with Frank Cusimano, and I would appear on those Sunday night shows, and I loved it. And I would appear on local TV. But my first assignment where I received a paycheck for doing television was Jack Watkins. Jack Watkins of the Missouri Valley Conference heard me doing sidelines for the University of Missouri. I was filling in for Chris Gervino doing football. And that opportunity came just because I had been around the Mizzou program covering it as a reporter for KMOX. And Mike Alden and Mike Kelly and the whole crew at Mizzou gave me a shot to fill in for Chris Gervino on 2 football games. And I did a good enough job to get Jack Watkins' attention. And he asked me if I would be the sideline reporter for Arch Madness.
There you go.
And he knew me just from being around. I, again, was just around a lot. I covered Arch Madness as a reporter for KMOX. I showed a great interest in it and loved being around it. And I got that opportunity, and I've had it since that year, which I guess is 2003 was my first year. My first year doing Mizzou was 01, 02. So maybe it was 02 was my first year doing the sidelines for Arch Madness. Anyway, that turned into play-by-play, which has been, for the last 15 years has been an incredible run and a lot of fun being part of that telecast crew. I'll go backwards. Why do I love TV so much? Because I love the responsibility of being the lead person, the first person you hear, the last person that says goodbye, the quarterback of the telecast for a group of people that are putting in hours and hours of work. And if I mess up, I'm letting the whole team down. I kind of like that responsibility. TV is absolutely a team effort. The truck, the technicians, the cameramen, everybody involved, the analyst sitting next to me, the people talking in my ear. I'm just one of many. So I like the fact that I'm trusted to be the front person on that team effort, and there's something really cool about the fact that they're watching what you're watching, and you can kind of play quarterback for them too. You're just, right. You're not saying too much, but you're framing and describing to a point where they are enjoying themselves. You're their guide for the day. And I love TV from that standpoint. It really is an awesome team effort. Why do I love radio so much? There is a freedom in it where once you get the hang of radio, you can take it wherever you want it. It's part of what is inside your head. You are their eyes and ears. You are basically taking them through this world that you're watching. And there's something really amazing about it. I'm not just talking about play-by-play. I mean, when I'm doing a show or if I'm reporting on an event, anything that I do, I'm trying to put it into words that you will understand, that you can follow. And it takes a long time, I think, for a person on radio or television to gain that credibility where they now trust you. So if they turn on the radio in the morning and hear me on KMOX, they're like, oh, yeah, I mean, it's Tom. Like, I listen to him all the time. Like, what he says, I'm going to take to the bank.
Right.
that's a huge responsibility. But that's why radio is so personal. Radio is, I'm just me and you in your car. You're driving along and I'm talking to you. It's very personal, and you become a trusted friend to a lot of people. And I love local radio because I'm from St. Louis, and I can relate to people here and talk to people here and understand people here. And that, I think, makes me maybe a little more of a friend rather than just another voice that they hear on the radio. That's really special to me. So they both play different roles in my life, and I love them both.
Last question for you. You've seen a lot. I didn't know you guys had you have a long bio on the KMOX website. It's like a full page long. But it mentions that you've seen so many events, of course, everything here locally, Cardinals, Blues, Rams when they were around. We've had all-star games, college basketball. But for you, first thing, top of mind, is there one event that sticks out that you're covering that was the most enjoyable for you to be there to tell the story of?
I mean, Game 6, that's hard to beat. Game 6. I'll tell you a couple of runners up. So real fast, the Rams, the fact that team came out of nowhere in 1999 to go on and win the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. And I was covering that team every single day, every day of training camp, every practice, every injury, every press conference. The fact that team started to take off, and suddenly I'm on these national radio shows and, doing updates for people that before didn't care about the St. Louis Rams. That was an amazing run, and I will never, ever forget it. What a team. Loved them, and still keep in touch with a lot of those guys. The Blues, our team coverage of the Stanley Cup was very memorable. That was one where I was able to watch with pride great people that worked very hard in our department, put together awesome coverage, and I was able to help oversee that. But that was one where I was just more proud of people. Like I was, more proud of what they had done than anything I had done, if that makes sense. Just watching that whole thing from a coverage standpoint as the sports director at KMOX and knowing that this team is special and magical. Like I almost saw them win the cup before they did. You just kind of felt like it was going to happen. That was awesome. But Game 6 and the 2011 Cardinals, which, shameless plug, we're actually airing those on our station right now every single day, games during this time. But that game in particular was – and I should have known, because the team had come from 10.5 games down and had rallied to make the playoffs on the final day. And the fact that they had hit rock bottom in August, and I had interviewed Adam Wainwright in front of a crowd of people at the Missouri Athletic Club. And here's this guy who was out for the season who was urging everybody in the room that they're not finished. And we're all like, wow, that's pretty bold. I mean, this team is in big trouble. The fact that they rallied all the way, then beat the Phillies dramatically, Carpenter over Halladay, beat the Brewers, the team that won the division by 6 games, beat them in the NLCS, then went on and fell behind the Rangers. Game 6 was unbelievable. Quick story about it. So I'm the sports director at KMOX. We have a studio right behind home plate at Busch Stadium. Cardinals fall behind in this game. Now it's like 7-4. And I think we're now late in the game, and I gathered people in the room and I said, our sports guys, and I said, we're going to have to prepare for if they lose this game, how do we talk about the end of the season? And let's discuss how we're going to do this. And as I'm saying that, I look up at the monitor and Alan Craig hits a home run, and the room is like vibrating. And I'm like, we need to go back out there. This is not over. And we go back out, and some people had left. And Ben Boyd, my executive sports producer, who I absolutely love, he and I went out and we asked one of the ushers if there were 2 green seats open, and there were 2 people had left the ballpark. So we sat behind home plate and we watched in the 9th inning when David Freese hit the triple and tied the game. when Josh Hamilton untied it with a home run, when Lance Berkman tied it again with his hit, and when David hit the home run over the center field fence. It was a remarkable night. I remember everything just, sort of runs together, but the enthusiasm of the entire day and the feel that the Cardinals just saved the season. And then the next day you had to play another game and everybody was so wiped out, but you covered Game 7 feeling like, you'll never see anything like this again. And they ended up winning the World Series, 7 games, 2011, the last World Championship. The team that I had been covering for a long time, that I thought I had seen everything, that was, just absolutely mind-blowing. And that'd be the top of the list for me. I have a lot of favorites, a lot of favorite teams and moments, but the St. Louis Cardinals were my first team, and that one definitely stands out.
Sir, you are one of the best. I don't think I've ever heard anybody say anything bad about you, because you're a consummate professional. And I think I probably speak for a lot of local St. Louis sports fans that it's always a joy to hear you on the air, or definitely for me, because you're doing Missouri State basketball games for their regional
Bears,
too. So it's always a joy to see you on the call and hear your voice. So I appreciate you taking the time to speak with me.
Well, Derek, I really appreciate it. And I just want to say that it really belongs with, it all comes down to KMOX and how they teach. And, Jack Buck is the name that stays with all of us, someone who we all looked up to, but there are so many more, Ron Jacober and Bernie Miklas. Jacober was like my dad at the station, and Miklas was like my big brother who, always said, hey, don't worry about what people think. Just say it. Just go do it. And Dan McLaughlin, who left to go to TV and gave me an opportunity to pursue on-air radio, and Randy Carricker. These are all people, Randy, who always, had such a great attitude. Like that's what it's all about. I guess if anybody's looking at a message as to why I do what I do, it's all about the people you surround yourself with. So I got really fortunate. I've been around some unbelievable people who taught me.